Picture a man on a ridge in January, the kind of cold that makes the oaks pop like rifle shots in the dark. He's got near $1,000 of gear spread around him, a name-brand bag rated for 0, a little stove that folds up smaller than your fist, a tent that packs down to nothing. And by 2 in the morning he is shaking so hard he can't work the zipper because not one piece of that expensive gear ever told him the thing that actually keeps a body alive when the temperature drops. Now, half a mile down the same hollow, there's an old woman with a wool army blanket, an empty coffee can, and a sock full of dry beans. No gear to speak of. Cost her maybe $6, all told. And she slept warm as a cat by the stove. That gap right there is the whole video. The government keeps the numbers on this. The Centers for Disease Control counts roughly 1,300 Americans a year killed by simple exposure to cold, most of them older, most of them rural. And hypothermia sets in the moment your core drops below 95 degrees, which is a lot warmer than most folks think. So this is not a cute little list about saving a few dollars. Some of it is the difference between a rough night and a dangerous one. Here's my promise. 25 tricks. Everyone uses something you'd throw in the trash or buy for pocket change, and everyone does the job of gear the outdoor stores want $50, $100, $300 for. We're counting down from 25 to number 1. And I'll tell you now, number 1 isn't really a camping trick at all. It's the piece that decides whether you make it warm through the coldest night of the year. Stay with me till the end, because that's the one I'd never go into the woods without. I'm Roy, 7th generation on this ridge in the southern mountains. My people came in behind a mule in the 1790s and never found a reason to leave. Most of what I know I got from my grandpa, who raised me after my daddy passed. He wrote a lifetime of it down in an old leather journal so it wouldn't die with him, and me sitting here talking to you is how I keep that from happening. Do me one small favor before we start. Tap subscribe, not for my sake. It's that this kind of know-how got buried on purpose, and every person who hangs on to it is one more place it can't be lost again. There's a good one coming right after this, and you'll want it. Because the real question was never just what we lost. It's who did well when we forgot it. So let's take some of it back, starting at 25. Number 25, corn chips as fire tinder. A handful of Fritos. Regular corn chips. Touch a match to them and they'll burn a good minute or two because a corn chip is mostly corn and cooking oil, and oil is fuel. Lay 4 or 5 in a little nest under your kindling, light one corner, and feed in pencil-thin twigs while they work. It feels like a joke the first time. It stops being a joke the night your wood is damp and that oily little flame is the only thing that'll catch. Costs you nothing. You already packed the snack. Number 24, dryer lint in an egg carton. Save the lint out of your dryer trap. Pack a wad into each cell of a cardboard egg carton, then dribble melted candle wax over the top to seal them. When you want a fire, tear off one cell and light the cardboard corner. The lint flares, the wax feeds it slow, and you get 4 or 5 minutes of flame per cell. A full carton is a dozen fire starts for the price of a stub of old candle. My grandpa never let a scrap of anything leave the house that could still do a job. This is that, exactly. Number 23, cotton balls and petroleum jelly. This one I'd trust my life to. Take 100% cotton ball, work a good dab of plain petroleum jelly all through it, and stash a few in an empty pill bottle. Bare cotton burns about 30 seconds. Loaded with jelly, it burns 4 to 9 minutes, hot and wind-stubborn, and it'll shrug off a splash of water. One thing folks get wrong. Before you light it, pull it open and fluff out some dry fibers, because the spark catches the fiber, and the jelly is just the fuel that keeps it going. A whole bottle of these costs under $1. Now, up next is the one that makes fire with no match and no lighter at all, and it's sitting in your garage right now. Number 22, steel wool and a 9-volt battery. Take a pinch of fine steel wool, the finest grade, the kind marked with 4 zeros that you'd polish furniture with. Stretch it loose and touch both terminals of a 9-volt battery to it at once. The battery shorts through those tiny iron threads, and the resistance heats them white hot, up around 1800 degrees, and the steel itself catches and burns. Drop it into your tinder and you're going. It works when your hands are wet and your matches are soaked. One hard safety rule: never store the wool touching the battery in your pack, or it'll do this trick by itself and set your bag on fire. Keep them apart always. Number 21. An egg carton full of charcoal. Set a briquette in each cell of a cardboard egg carton. Now you've got a fire kit you just set down and light. Touch off the carton. The cardboard carries the flame cell to cell, and the coals catch on their own with no fussing. Perfect for a quick cook fire when you don't want to build a whole lay. But hear me clean on this one. Charcoal is the single most dangerous thing on this whole list if you misuse it. Never, ever burn it inside a tent, a camper, or any closed space for warmth. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has been warning about exactly this since the 1980s, after counting dozens of deaths, a lot of them campers who dragged a grill inside to warm up. Charcoal outdoors, in the open every time. Number 20. Old prescription bottles. Don't pitch those amber pill bottles. They screw down watertight, perfect for the small things that ruin a trip if they get wet. Matches and a strip of striker. A few of those jelly cotton balls, fish hooks, a folded $20 bill. Label them with tape so you're not guessing in the dark. Free, waterproof, and they float. Number 19. A mint tin kit. An old flat metal mint tin is a whole toolbox. Load it with hooks, line, a couple safety pins, a spark source, and you've got a fishing and fire kit that rides in a shirt pocket. Better yet, use it to make char cloth. Cut squares of old cotton cloth, close them in the tin, punch one tiny hole in the lid, and set it in the coals. The cloth cooks without air until it turns to soft black char, and that char will catch the faintest spark you can throw at it. That's the old-timer's trick for catching fire from almost nothing. Costs you a tin you'd have thrown out. Number 18. Duct tape. Wrap a couple feet of duct tape around your water bottle or your lighter so you always have it and it takes up no room. It patches a torn tent, a leaking tarp, a busted pack strap, and for a hot spot on your heel before it becomes a blister, a smooth strip of tape over the rub will save your feet. One caution: don't slap it straight onto a blister that's already open and raw. Pad that first. Tape the skin around it. Number 17. Paracord or your spare bootlaces. A hank of paracord does the work of a whole hardware aisle. Ridgeline for a tarp, lashing poles together. A clothesline, a bear bag hang. A bootlace when one snaps. Real paracord holds hundreds of pounds, and the inner strands pull out for fishing line and sewing thread. If you don't want to buy any, an extra pair of bootlaces costs about $2 and does most of it. Coming up, we get into the cook gear, and the first one turns a piece of foil into an oven. Number 16. Aluminum foil. A folded sheet of heavy foil is a frying surface on the coals, a windscreen bent around your stove so the flame stops guttering, and a reflector oven propped behind the fire to bounce heat onto a pan. Fold a pouch, drop in fish and butter and sliced potato, and cook it in the embers. Weighs nothing, costs pennies a use. Number 15. A wire coat hanger. Straighten out an old wire coat hanger, and you've got a grill grate bent to fit your fire, a pot hook to hang a can over the flame, and a roasting fork for meat or bread. Bend a hook on one end to lift a hot can off the coals without burning your hand. One thing: use plain steel hangers, not the ones with a heavy painted or plastic coating, because you don't want that smoking into your supper. Free out of any closet. Number 14. A number 10 can hobo stove. The big can that food service tomatoes come in, the number 10 size, makes a wood stove that has fed campers for over 100 years. Cut a door in the bottom side for feeding sticks. Punch a ring of holes up top for air and burn twigs inside it. It shelters the flame from wind and throws the heat straight up into your pot. A smaller soup can become your cup and your cook pot. Total cost, whatever you paid for the beans that came in it. That's replacing a stove. They'd sell you for $40 or $50, and honestly, this one does more. Number 13, a can of oil-packed fish. Here's one that surprises people. A can of tuna or sardines packed in oil is an emergency candle and a tiny stove in one. Poke a hole in the lid, roll a bit of paper towel or cotton into a wick, feed it down into the oil, and light it. The oil wicks up and burns slow and steady for a couple hours, throwing enough heat to warm a cup or light a shelter. When the oil's gone, the fish inside is still good to eat. But the same rule stands as the charcoal. Any open flame indoors makes carbon monoxide, which you cannot see or smell, and the CDC ties more than 400 deaths a year to it. Burn it in the open air. Never sleep with any flame going. Now let me stop you a second, because we're about to shift. Everything up to here has been junk drawer stuff, the little tricks. From here down, we start replacing the gear they charge you real money for. And a few of these, somebody in a marketing office would rather you never heard. Number 12, a headlamp on a water jug. Strap a headlamp around a clear plastic jug with the light shining inward, and the whole jug glows like a soft lantern that fills a tent with even light instead of one harsh beam. A gallon milk jug works fine. That's a $15 or $20 camp lantern done with a light you already own and a jug you'd recycle. Now, the lantern makers weren't plotting against you. There's just no money in telling folks the thing they already packed does the job. That's not a conspiracy. That's every business there ever was. No shame if you own the fancy one. You just never needed it. Number 11, zip-top bags. The humble freezer bag waterproofs your phone, your matches, your first aid kit, your maps, and your wallet, and you can still work the phone screen right through the plastic. Double bag anything that has to stay dry. In a pinch, a sturdy gallon bag carries water from the creek back to camp. Get the freezer weight ones. The thin sandwich bags split. Number 10, a wine bladder. Inside a box of wine, there's a tough plastic bladder with a spigot on it. Rinse it out good and you've got a collapsible water container that holds 3 to 5 liters, folds flat, empty, and pours clean through the tap. That's a job people paid $25, $30 for at the camp store, and you were about to throw it in the bin. Fill it, hang it from a branch, and you've got running water at camp. Number 9, trash bags. A couple of heavy contractor-grade trash bags might be the most useful thing in your pack. Cut a head hole and it's a rain poncho. Lay it flat and it's a ground cloth. Line your pack and your gear stays dry. Through a downpour. Stuff one with leaves and it's a mattress. 2 hard cautions. Never pull one over a child's head or your own face, because plastic and breathing don't mix. And plastic doesn't breathe, so you'll get damp from your own sweat inside it. It's emergency cover, not a real layer. Number 8, newspaper. This one carried folks through the Depression, and it still works. Crumpled newspaper stuffed inside your jacket and down in your boots traps a layer of dead air against you, and dead air is what insulation actually is. Wet boots overnight, wad newspaper inside, and it pulls the moisture and holds shape till morning. And of course it's fire starter besides. A stack of old papers is free at the recycle bin. All right, here's where the money is. Everything left is big-ticket gear, the stuff with the biggest markup in the whole outdoor store. This is the part they'd rather you skip. Number 7, a plastic drop cloth or shower curtain. A painter's drop cloth or an old shower curtain, $4 or $5, lays under your tent as a footprint to stop groundwater and protect the floor, or strings up overhead as a rain tarp. The premium tent brand footprint cut to fit your exact tent runs $40, $50 for the same sheet of plastic. Same job. 1/10 the price. Number 6, a split pool noodle. Here's one most folks never think of. When you sleep on the ground, the cold earth pulls heat straight out of your body faster than the cold air ever will. That's conduction, and it's the reason people wake up freezing even in a good bag. You have to put something between you and the dirt. A cheap foam pool noodle split down the middle lengthwise lays out as free sleeping pad insulation, and short pieces fill the cold gaps in a cooler to make your ice last longer. $1 at the end of summer. Cold weather campers treat ground insulation as non-negotiable, and this is the poor man's version of it. Number 5. A tarp and a rope. A good tarp and 30 feet of rope pitch as an A-frame over a ridge line, or a lean-to with the back staked low to the wind, and that shelters you through a hard night for $15 or $20. The stores will happily sell you a backpacking tent for $200, $300 and up. And look, a tent is easier and it keeps the bugs off. I won't pretend different. But generations cross this country under nothing but a tarp and a rope. If money's tight, this isn't a downgrade. It's what worked long before the fancy version existed. Number 4. Army surplus wool blankets. A genuine wool Army blanket runs $20 to $40 at the surplus store, and it does the work of a bag costing several times that. Here's why wool, and not a cheap fleece. Wool holds its warmth even when it's damp, because the fibers trap air and pull moisture away from your skin, where cotton just gets cold and wet and quits on you. 2 wool blankets folded and pinned into a bedroll will carry you through most 3-season nights. The sleeping bag companies make a fine product, no argument. But the blanket was here first, and it never stopped working. That's the whole story of this channel in one item. Before the last 3, let me say this once and then leave it alone. There's a lot more of this than fits in one video. Truth is, I couldn't get half of what my grandpa left me into 25 items. So I gathered the whole of it into a book over on my site, the long version of everything I know. It's there if you want it, and I won't bring it up again. Links below. Now back to it, because the last 3 are the ones about staying alive when it's truly cold. Number 3. A space blanket behind your back. That thin silver mylar sheet, the emergency blanket, does its best work when you stop wearing it and start hanging it. String one up behind you between yourself and the fire, shiny side facing you, and it throws the fire's heat back onto your back, so you're warmed from both sides. It works because of what it is. NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center developed that film back in 1964, and it reflects around 90% of radiant heat. Your body loses better than half its warmth as radiation, so bouncing it back is no small thing. One warning: mylar melts and burns, so hang it well back from the flames. Never close enough to catch. Costs about $1. Number 2, a candle in a coffee can. Set a single candle inside an empty metal coffee can, and the can soaks up the heat and radiates it back as a small, steady warmer, enough to take the bite off your hands or warm a tiny space. Turned upside down with a candle under it, the hot metal warms your fingers on a cold morning. It's an old, honest trick. But I have to be dead serious here, and this is the one place on the list I won't soften. Any flame in an enclosed tent or vehicle builds carbon monoxide, and it is silent, and it is deadly, and cracking a window does not make it safe. The CDC and the Safety Commission are plain as day about that. Use this in the open, or in a well-vented space you're awake to watch. Blow it out before you sleep, no exceptions. And that brings us to the one I told you to wait for. Number 1, a hot rock and a sock in your bedroll. Remember that man freezing on the ridge with $1,000 of gear. Here's what the old woman knew that he didn't. Fill a clean sock with dry rice or dry beans. Warm it a few minutes near the fire until it's good and hot, but not scorching, and tuck it into your bedroll by your feet or against your chest. Rice and beans hold heat a long time and give it back slow while you sleep. And the bigger version, the one that carries you through the coldest night. Warm a dry stone by the fire, wrap it thick in cloth, and put it down in your blankets 20 minutes before you turn in. A warmed rock, wrapped right, will radiate heat for hours. But you listen close, because this one can hurt you 2 ways. First, use only dry, solid stone, and keep it granite if you can, never a smooth river rock. Wet and porous rocks trap water inside, and heated in a fire that water flashes to steam, and the rock can burst like a small grenade and throw sharp pieces 20 feet. That's not a story. That's physics. Dry stone heated at the edge of the fire, never in the middle of a wet fire pit. And second, wrap it well and check it against your own skin first, because a bare hot rock will burn you in your sleep and you won't feel it coming. Here's why this is number one. Warmth is the thing that actually keeps you alive out there. Everything else on this list is comfort. This is survival. That man had gear. What he didn't have was the knowledge to put warmth into his bed instead of trusting a zipper. $6 of beans, a sock, and a stone beat $1,000 of gear because the knowledge was the gear all along. And that's the real thread through all 25 of these. Not one of them is about being poor. They're about not being dependent. Every one of these skills faded because somewhere along the way it got easier to buy the answer than to know it, and there was always somebody glad to sell it to you. That's not a plot against you, and it's surely not your failing. Companies are just good at what they do, but the knowing that they can't take unless you let them. And now you've got 25 pieces of it back. Don't go try all 25 this weekend. Pick one. If you've got a dryer, spend Saturday making a carton of lint fire starters for free. If you've got $1, grab a pool noodle before the season ends and split it for a sleeping pad. And this week, tonight even, dig a clean sock out of the drawer and try the rice sock warmer by your own wood stove so your hands know how it works before the night you need it. Now I've got a question for you, and I read every answer. What's the one cheap trick your grandma or your daddy did out camping? Or just getting by that you've never seen anybody else do? The region you're from? The family way of doing it? Whatever it was. Tell me down below. Whichever one gets the most folks talking is the one I'll take apart start to finish in a video of its own. Speaking of the next one, here's what I'm working up. How the old-timers kept a single fire burning steady all night without ever getting up to feed it. There's a way to lay the wood so it burns slow toward you till morning, and once you've seen it, you'll never shiver through the dark again. And there's likely another video already sitting right there on your screen, waiting on you. The way this all works, it usually knows what you'll like better than I do, so go on and give it a look. I'll see you at the next fire.